When your boss is blowing hot air, it's a day of the week ending in Y. But when your AC vents are blowing hot air during the dog days of summer, that's a scenario ending in C, emergen-cy. To get the process of elimination started, check for these 4 common causes of air conditioning issues. Check your thermostat, stat.
The issue could be as simple as someone bumped or otherwise unwittingly altered the setting on the thermostat, such as moving it to the heat setting or raising the temperature above room temperature. Or perhaps the batteries are dead and need to be replaced.
Make sure your thermostat is functioning properly and that the settings are all in the right place. Is your condensate drain line draining condensate?
Your AC drain line catches and diverts the condensation created by your system. If this line becomes clogged due to neglect, it could cause a malfunction, not to mention water damage if it overflows.
Make sure it drains freely into a floor drain or outside. Is your furnace filter filtering your furnace?
If you've neglected your HVAC filter replacement routine, you should be changing it quarterly. Your filter could get clogged up with crud, making your system struggle to pull air through it, working less and less efficiently and, eventually, choking it off to the point it shuts down altogether. If you haven't changed your HVAC filter in a while, go ahead and do this ASAP, regardless of whether it's the likely culprit.
Breaker, do you read?
Check your circuit breaker box in the garage or basement. Perhaps you have a tripped switch that shut down your outdoor AC compressor. If so, flip it back, check your settings, and see if things improve.
If none of these obvious issues solves your climate control catastrophe, you're going to need to call a pro. As a dedicated DIYer, I normally advocate for homeowners tending to their own household maintenance obligations. My motto is, if I can do it, you can do it. But if I can't do it, and you can't do it, somebody's got to do it. That's why I'm calling in reinforcements. This is my HomeServe homie Randy. He's a bona fide HomeServe HVAC tech, and he's here to show us how he investigates an AC outage and what he does to address it.
So one of the first things I like to do when I'm performing AC maintenance is check the thermostat. We want to make sure that it's set in the cooling position so we can get all of our readings while the blower is running. All right, so we're downstairs at the indoor unit. We're going to check a couple of things down here. The humidifier, the evaporator, the blower, some of the electrical performance on the blower, and replace the filter. In the event of a system blowing warm air, we know that the blower is working. We know that the thermostat is working. There's a few items that will trigger the condenser outside not to operate, and most of those will all result from a clogged condensate line. One of those items would be a condensate pump that has a built-in safety switch, so if the pump fails, it triggers this switch to kill the condenser. This house isn't equipped with a condensate pump, but it would be located right where this white pipe is. The other one would be just a general safety switch, which would most likely be located in an attic installation. So we've checked the indoor unit to make sure the fan was running. We don't have a switch. We don't have a condensate pump with a switch. So the next step is to come outside. And I can already hear what part of the issue is. I can hear the fan running, but I don't hear the compressor. So that leads me to believe it's going to be a capacitor, a broken wire, or worst case, a bad compressor. So I'm going to take the electrical apart, get to the capacitor, and check that first. Here's the capacitor. I'm going to pull the wires off of it and check it out and see if it's working okay. Check the fan first by going across these 2 terminals with our meter set to microfarads. Remember, we wanted 5, we have 5. Now I'm going to check across these 2 terminals, and we have 0. And that leads us to believe it's a bad capacitor, which will keep the compressor from turning on. The good news is we have capacitors on our trucks. We have a lot of them. They come in many shapes and sizes. So let's go get a new one. All right, so we got the new capacitor in. We're going to power it up, and hopefully everything kicks on. Much different sound now. You can hear the roar of that compressor going. So there are a couple of things that can cause that, one of them being the amp draw on the compressor. So I'm going to check the amps on the compressor real quick just to verify it's okay. We're going to wait for this number to stabilize, and that's the number we'll go with and compare it to the chart on the cover. Looks like we're operating at about 14.7.6. So we can compare that to the chart. Compressor RLA is 26.4. So now we can verify we're way under that maximum load that the nameplate says. Why don't we go check out the Delta T and see how good we're cooling. So we're inside, we're checking the temperature coming out of the register now. We got 56.3. We're cooling, everything looks good. I can go downstairs and check the differential, but we know that it's cooling. But let's discuss what this would have cost the customer. I don't have exact pricing because it's based on region and based on company. Are they flat rate? Are they not flat rate? But it will be a service visit plus the part for sure.
All right, so we've checked the pressures. Everything looks good as far as the refrigerant's concerned. Let's verify it with a delta T, which is temperature of the return minus the temperature of the supply air. We typically look for a 16 to about 21, 22 degree range. We're operating at 48 degrees on the supply, 69 degrees on the return, giving us a 20 degree delta T, 21 almost. System's working perfect.
That all makes perfect sense, Randy. Could you repeat the middle part?
The middle part?
Now that you've seen all this, homeowners, what do you think? DIY dilemma or a problem for the pros? Let us know in the comments.